on Giant TV. In this episode, I'm going to get into describing how you can touch your long-term prospects multiple ways and keep them warm and fuzzy so that when you're calling them back after that first interaction, they remember you, they've gotten high-value content in front of them, and you've done it the right way. So let's go jump in. You're going to love this. Okay, let me jump right into this. Talking about conversion here and your sales cycle and nurture and some other important highlights. I want to show you an email. This is a recent email I got from a client, happens to be a Vistage chair. And in my discussions with Vistage leadership, I asked the question, what is the selling cycle, average selling cycle for a Vistage chair to get a new member? And I've been told about 90 days, 120 days sort of time frame. That's the average. Chairs will have different experiences, but I got this email and it was interesting, and it got me motivated to send this out. So this is the timeline for this chair's signing up a new member, with the stuff we're doing. And you can see here April, January, February, March, April 3rd, connected on LinkedIn, first message. We have some really tight, high-end messaging that goes out. Great copywriting is always important when you're messaging, how you're approaching somebody, what you're saying, how you're saying it. So the messaging is critical, and messaging goes out. What's important here too is profile on LinkedIn, making sure it's elevated. You got your A game on when you're doing this, because people are going to start looking at you, and you got to put your best foot forward. Competition is fierce. There's 1.6 million executive coaches on LinkedIn. Everybody's reaching out to CEOs, C-suite executives. How are you going to get noticed and above everybody else? And so as you're messaging, you gotta just look awesome, because people are going to make a decision about whether they want to get on a phone call with you, let alone, buy your product or service. So messaging is key. Response came in, phone call, Zoom, coffee, signed application, and awesome. So you can see the touches here. Now this is the grand slam, right? So if every single interaction could end up like this, that's not realistic, but this is textbook scenario here, multiple touches and so forth. And signing within the average time frame of closing for Vistage. Now, let's talk about this nurture process and some stats and my thoughts around this, and the way for you to really think about the build of your practice and what happens when you're reaching out to people. So first of all, you've got to get your leads niche down to your leads and have your outbound going out and then incoming coming in, so you can have conversations. But here's a very important stat that all marketing people like myself, we're all focused on this. It's true for everybody. The best marketing people on the planet have these stats. And when you understand these stats, it really gets you thinking about what you have to do, your whole process about closing somebody. 80% plus of the people that come into your touch point ecosystem there, where you're reaching out and so forth, are going to be long-term leads. You are not going to close them in the short term. And as I said, it's true for the best marketing people on the planet. And, there's always going to be some low-hanging fruit. But when you realize this, it gets you then thinking about what you've got to do. It gets you thinking about the long game. You're not in this for the short term, and think long term and how you have to nurture somebody, because you're not going to close them right away. You'll get the low hanging fruit. The vast majority are going to go in your pipeline, and you can't forget about them. You can't, have an interaction. They go into your long-term lead pipeline, and then you call them 6 months later to check in, and you've done nothing between that first interaction in 6 months. They're not even going to remember you, And so you've got to nurture uh, and and I see a lot of folks where it's like they go for the jugular right away, and if they don't get a close, they're done. They don't ever contact the person again. That is a failing strategy, and this isn't about you having to spend 8 hours a day, touching your leads and doing stuff. You've got to process this out and make these processes repeatable, identifiable. And so you have this machine going. So if you realize this over here, 80% plus long-term leads, it's okay. So now you get into the touches and how you've got to nurture somebody. And here are some popular ways to do it that are very effective. Number one is when you talk to somebody initially and they now go into your long-term lead pipeline, you've got to build, first of all, a dossier on that person. So you're having a discussion, building rapport, knowability, likability, trust, all of that. You get to know them, they get to know you. Now they're in your pipeline. And build that dossier. You've got to get organized. And by dossier, I mean keep notes on your conversation. What did you talk about? And probe for information that's going to be helpful. Have a conversation. Where are you from? You have family, you have kids. Find out what they really care about outside of business, because those are the things people are really passionate about in addition to their business. But if you have that conversation, in the right way, you can have notes that will help you down the road. I recently discovered with a client, for example, that we both love classic cars and own some, and it just was a point of connection. And we did read a really cool discussion about cars and coffee, those events you go to, and cars in general, and scooters. I have a Vespa, classic Vespa. So anyways, my point is those things are great because it just creates a human connection. So build that dossier, your notes, but also website links, names of business partners if you're talking about that. Maybe even the name of the spouse, and get that in there. How many kids they have, any other sort of links. Maybe they have stuff they've talked about, or hey, I've written a book. Link to that book. My point is build that dossier. That's a whole nother discussion, because I find oftentimes solopreneurs and coaches aren't organized and don't have that going on. They're using Excel spreadsheets for that stuff. And so that's another thing to talk about that I go into in my videos. But you build that dossier. So now, as you're going forward, you're touching them. Number one is you've got email. You've collected their email, and you have a very tight email process going on where you're nurturing, guiding, teaching, helping through email. Don't poo-poo email. It is golden, and you can proactively reach out and really get great content in front of them as you're looking to call them back later on. So they're getting in touch with email. Also, LinkedIn webinars. So clients I'm working with, we do LinkedIn webinars using LinkedIn Live, LinkedIn events. It's awesome. You're inviting them to that. Just the fact that you're inviting them, they're seeing great things you're doing with your LinkedIn webinars, makes you stand out, and they see you, right? And you're not saying, hey, let's get on a call, let's get on a call, let's get on a call. You're giving stuff they care about in, putting it in front of them. So you have these LinkedIn webinars going on. You're tagging. You can have a tagging strategy with your content you're putting out on LinkedIn and other places. Tag them so they're seeing your high value content, your marketing content that's going out, that's positioning you as an authority, high value figure. And so it's another way to drip on them. Maybe you've got a YouTube channel, and we're building out YouTube channels for clients, and it is the library where your content is kept, your video content, of course. And so you can get them to subscribe there. Hey, follow me on YouTube, and high value channel. And so now they're getting touched there. My point is multiple touches that are going out to your long-term prospects need to happen, so that then when you call them back, down the road, because they say, hey, check back, I'm busy, going on vacation, whatever the case is, then you will touch them. And now when you call them back, you also can have a reference point with your dossier on your notes of your conversations, things you took down, and maybe even between the first and the second interaction, as you've been touching them, things they care about, classic cars, music, you find something interesting to send them related to that passion. And example, I'm a big hoops guy. Played hoops at San Quentin prison, not as an inmate, but as an outreach program with a bunch of my buddies. We've gone in there and played an inmate team. There's an article at Sports Illustrated about it, and uh, maybe I'll even put that article up here in the corner. You can check it out. But I have clients that are into hoops, follow basketball, and so one of the touches is, hey, you got to check this article out in Sports Illustrated. Played hoops at San Quentin, you'll love it. Just something we both care about, and it just shows you going the extra mile and that you're interested in them. So my point and takeaway here is, get your head focused on this. Have processes to reach out, connect with people, bring them in. Vast majority are going to be long-term leads. You've got to nurture them in constructive ways, so you keep them warm when you're following up to then, move them through the pipeline. Now, as I exit here, I want to say that always love hearing about your business. If you want to get one-on-one with me, wherever you're watching this video, because I stream this everywhere, maybe it's up here, down here, there's a way to get with me one-on-one Zoom, 100% complimentary. And I'd love to hear what's working for you, what's not working. I can tell you what I'm doing with other Vistage chairs, coaches, that's working, and what is going on right now to help people build and nurture their businesses. So look forward to that, and thanks for tuning in here.